Hi, everyone. Welcome. Oh, welcome, everybody. We're just going to give it a few minutes for everybody to join us, but we're so glad you're here. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. So we're excited to have you all here, and we'll get started soon. Hey, everybody. We're still waiting a little bit before we start, but can you guys hear us okay? Kat, will you say
Hi,
something?
everybody.
Can
Want to
you
make
hear
sure
us?
you can hear us.
If you wouldn't mind letting us know either in the chat or you're welcome to unmute. Just want to make sure you can hear us okay.
I can hear you.
Oh, thanks so much. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. I'm just admitting a few more folks, but we'll start shortly. So excited you all are here and we're going to be cooking up a storm together. Okay. All right. Well, I'll start us off. So thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Buckman and I work in our marketing department and work with all of our community instructors that teach classes here at the co-op. So we're so glad that you are here and doing our virtual cooking class with us today. I see some familiar faces and familiar names, but are there any of you that are doing this for the first time? I would love to hear about any new people joining us. Feel free for this class. We're going to use the comment section, and then when there's time, people can unmute. But I'll be kind of keeping track of people's questions and additions to the conversation. So. Yeah. Oh, Tracy and Amanda says it's their first time. Well, we're so glad. I know Tony, and Marjorie, you guys have been taking our classes. We're so glad that you guys are back. And so, yeah, I guess I would just give you a little rundown of our virtual cooking classes. So we do virtual classes every month with different community members sharing their cultural cuisine or recipes that they're really passionate to share. And then we also do in-person classes. We've been doing a cocktail class series with Katie Curlo once a month. Those sell out so fast. And then we've been doing other in-person classes with Paul Young, and he's been doing different, he's doing a Taste of France series. So if you're ever interested, we have a class email list and a newsletter that you can kind of keep tabs on these classes. And I'm excited. We're going to be doing believe a Solo Grazia cooking class in September and a Moroccan class in October. So we'll keep you posted, but we are so excited. There's a couple people that are coming into the class. I'm just going to let them in. And so we're so excited to be doing this caprese cooking class with Kat Keys.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, so Kat and I met last year at the in-person classes.
Right here in this room. I guess, well, that was, you mentioned Paul, and I'm thinking that's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
As you said, my name is Kat Keys, and I have not really cooked professionally very much in my life, but I have been developing recipes, absorbing any and all. If you read the bio that was posted in connection with this class, absorbing any and all cooking education I could through network and anybody that would let me into their kitchen and just any source that I can. So I am 100% self-taught and just been looking for opportunities to kind of get my name out there and share what I know with those that are interested in my food. Back in beginning of 2020, my New Year's resolution was to start a very small scale catering business for people that were going to have like little small dinner parties, because it's just me by myself. So it couldn't be big venues, but just little things. And as we all know, around about February, March, the world had other plans for me and all the rest of us. Mm-hmm. So that put a hold on everything. And I was working in grocery retail at the time. So it was more focused on, like the rest of us, just adjusting to the advent of COVID. Fast forward some years later, I look for Paul Young, or I look for a cook here in Champaign-Urbana, and I find Paul Young. I come to one of his classes. That's where I meet Sarah, and here we are now. Oh, sorry. We had a little brief interruption there. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Sorry, we just had some person that didn't get the link, so I want to make sure that they can't get that, but yeah, we're so glad to have you here, Kat. And can you guys all hear us okay? Still? Oh, there you go. I think that's better. So yes, thank you so much for joining us, and we're gonna do this all together. So we've got about 20 households that are gonna be cooking all together. I think every one of your kits is exactly the same. So we'll kind of walk you through everything that you're gonna need for this class. And we've got everything pre-portioned and we've got your recipe card. So if you have a bunch of people in your kitchen and you're speeding up and you're able to go faster than we are, you're absolutely welcome to do that. We also recorded the class, so if you ever want to look back at it, we'll send you the link after the class. But we'll walk you through everything that you're going to need and what equipment and cooking equipment that you're going to need too. So do you want to share a little bit about what we're going to make?
Absolutely. So this is a caprese stuffed Hasselback chicken breast, and explain what that is. For those that don't know, in cooking, pretty much any dish that includes tomato, mozzarella, basil, and olive oil is considered caprese. So many people may have had a caprese salad, which would be the little small cherry tomatoes and usually mozzarella balls with basil and olive oil tossed in. But you can apply it pretty much to any dish that you want to make it in that style. Hasselback refers to, it'll be much easier to show than try to explain, but it's slits that will be made across the top of the chicken breast where we're going to stuff the caprese elements. I believe Hasselback potatoes are where people most commonly run across that term, where the potato has been cut into very, very narrow slits and is cooked that way. We have that, and then with that is going to be a balsamic brown sugar glaze that we'll cook down. We'll compose it together first, and then add it to the chicken and reduce it down into a sauce. As a side dish, we have some asparagus that is going to be sauteed with bacon bits and corn that we're going to be, the bacon bits are going to be from scratch. That's why you have bacon in your kits as well. I just have the meats in the refrigerator at the moment. And then and we're going to get started with, there'll be a pot of rice. But the rice is pretty self-explanatory. It's just simple white rice, but we're also going to be cooking that on the stovetop. And, but we're going to get started with our tomato cucumber salad. So it's composed of, it's very simple, basically 4 to 5 ingredients, depending on what type of dressing you want to use. You could go with a vinegar and oil on your own, in which case you may want to add some sugar to make it a sweeter salad, but that's really a matter of personal taste. But we do have this garlic herb dressing that came in your kit that's sold here at the at Common Ground Co-op grocery store that works really, really well. And I found that when we tried it out with that dressing, I didn't really need to add anything more to it. But all of that is a matter of personal taste. As with all things, when you're cooking, I always recommend taste as you go. You want a little more garlic, add a little more garlic. You want a little more salt, pepper, whatever. It's to your liking. So as long as you make it the way you like it, it's a success.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So we're going to first prep all of our veggies and then prep all of our meats before any actual cooking happens. So I opted to leave everything, for the most part, in exactly the containers that you have in your kits so that everyone can be with me. You know, we're all in it together from step one. For the tomatoes, we're going to first prep the tomatoes for the chicken because we're going to slice them in 2 different directions, the chicken versus the salad. So for these, look through what you have. If they're all relatively about the same size, it won't matter. If you're noticing some bigger, some smaller, do what you can to find the 4 largest ones you have. But it's not a deal breaker if they're not big. I mean, they're purposely small tomatoes. And we're gonna break out the paring knife here for this one, and bowl here for the slices because this is for the chicken, so that's gonna come a little bit later.
So yeah, just the 4 largest of your cherry tomatoes, and a paring knife, cutting board, and then you've got a really nice small bowl. And we're just gonna How are you gonna cut these
Okay.
four?
So most of the time when we're cutting small tomatoes like this, you'll cut them lengthwise. And that is what we're gonna do for the salad. But for the chicken, we're actually going to, it's a little bit, we're gonna start off with a little bit of a challenge. We're gonna be cutting them across the, in the short direction. The goal is to get four thinly sliced coins, if you will, from each tomato. Now the ends we're not going to use for the chicken. I'm going to toss them into this bowl here. We'll just add them to the salad.
So you will need like a larger bowl for the rest of the salad. So you're just trying to get four slices, like coin slices across each of those four tomatoes.
So what we have here, if you pinch the tomato on each end and hold it, you can, I'll show you with the next one as well. So we're gonna take the ends, toss that in for the salad, and those will go in. Did I get four? I did not get four. Well, we'll make it.
These coin slices will go to
Yeah.
fill the Hasselback chicken. So
Are you able to see that?
yeah.
So we got the end there. Just take your time. There we go. Now we're gonna have four on this.
So for the tomatoes, we do four. Do we slice them in or half of them?
If you can slice them as thin as possible, they'll
Mhm.
slide into one of the slits for the
For
Hasselback chicken.
breast. Right.
And then, Kat, you use the ends of the tomatoes
Right.
into a bowl.
The ends we're just tossing in the bowl here. That's going to end up being our cucumber tomato salad. But this is the end result that we're looking for.
So these are thin enough that they won't fall out of the chicken when we do cook it,
Right.
but they'll kind of be little slivers. So you're gonna ideally do four
Right.
grape tomatoes
If-
sliced thin.
If you come up a little short, you only have three. It's not the end of the world. We'll steal one of the tomatoes from the salad.
So the four tomatoes are for the chicken. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so four
Yeah.
tomatoes for the chicken, and then the rest of it we'll use for our vegetable salad.
This one I'm
Gotcha.
gonna have to
Thank you.
improvise a little bit. It's being difficult.
So we're gonna just do all the prep. So we've got a big cutting board that we'll use for all of the vegetables, all of our produce prep.
Right, and then a separate cutting board for the meats.
Yeah.
All right, last one here. And again, if you can get in tight
Yeah.
here, Sarah.
Mhm.
So cut as close as you can to the end to begin with to give you as much real estate, if you will, to work with. And it helps to have your knife really good and sharp for this.
We've got knife sharpening at the co-op every Saturday, so if you ever needed.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay. So we have our slices here. Let me get a shot of here. Oh. We have our slices here for the chicken. And we're gonna set that to the side. We'll come back to that later. And then the rest of the tomatoes, we're gonna use for the salad.
Hey, Whitney, sorry I was late letting you in. I just wanted to let you know that we are chopping up our tomatoes right now. We did 4 grape-sized tomatoes, sliced
we're-
really thin into coins.
Into coins. So you want round slices. That means cutting it across the short way.
Perfect.
Mhm.
And then the rest of them, we're gonna chop a little different for our tomato cucumber salad.
Okay. And now, since I did short myself one slice on the chicken, but you know what? I'm gonna leave it because I'm sure not everyone else got exactly 4 on every single tomato. So, but I'll show you how in the end it won't make that much of a difference. So for the salad, we're gonna do this what most people are used to. We're having these the long way. So you're gonna end up with 2 oval shaped slices like that.
Mhm.
Okay. So more people have done that than the other way, I'm sure. And so we'll run through these really quickly.
So all the rest of the tomatoes can be just sliced long ways, lengthwise.
Now, I have learned about, I'm not about to try to do it, but I've learned about a kitchen trick when it comes to having these tomatoes. Take another flat, like another cutting board or a plate, and
Mm.
sit it on, they good under there and just
I've
slice
seen
away.
that
I've
too.
seen that too. I'm not there yet. So I'm gonna work with what I know,
Yeah.
go with what works.
And we're about to just start getting all of our cherry tomatoes in from our local farm. So this recipe will be great to repeat later in the season when we're getting all the local cucumbers and tomatoes.
Yeah.
This is kind of a one you can repeat all the time.
All right, then we're down to the last one. And it's because the tomatoes are kind of juicy. Give it a little white. It's not really that important to clean it now because we're just doing all produce anyhow. Got my garbage bowl here.
Perfect.
And so now we're gonna go to the cucumbers. They're usually pretty clean, but it never hurts to give them a good rinse.
Can you guys hear us okay? I think Whitney, can you hear us?
Shall we?
I think nothing's changed volume wise. Let me see if that's better for you, Whitney.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so with the cucumbers, we're not using the ends, of course, you know, not edible. So just gonna cut off the ends. And what we're going for is just, it's really a matter of taste. You can slice them a little thicker if you like them, if you like a chunkier cucumber, or you can go as thin as you like. The thinner you slice them, the more they're going to absorb the dressing as it sits in the refrigerator when this is all done. But again, it's all comes down to personal taste. So we're just going to slice that cucumber. I like them relatively thin, not that chunky, but it doesn't have to be paper thin unless you want it to be paper thin. And yes, they will kind of roll around on you. If some of the slices that are on the board get caught under the knife, that's not a big deal either, unless you're just really, really, really picky that they all have to be perfectly round, but they don't.
And a lot of these cucumbers, they're harvested a little bit early. And they're known for being a little bit smaller, mini cucumbers, but a lot of our local farmers will harvest their cucumbers a little bit earlier so that the seeds aren't fully developed. So they're a little bit sweeter usually. So these would be really great.
Right. Now for this, as she said, we are using the small salad cucumbers. You can use full-size cucumber if you want to do this again. Just know that if you're going to use the seedless, which are usually longer and thinner, and they come wrapped in plastic, there's really no need to peel them, just like with these, because as she said, they're less mature. If you use, I guess, the more traditional cucumbers, I guess, for lack of a better name for them, you'll want to either peel them completely or leave, you can peel them and leave like little strips of the flesh still intact. And that way, when you slice them, you get those nice little decorative stripes around the edge of your slices. So as I'm going through cutting, we had talked about that we might point out a little bit about knife work. You know, I'm assuming everyone's going to be at varying levels of experience in the kitchen. So I know, like for most cooks at home, I know it was true for me that you just hold the handle and you think, if we can get a shot of the hand, you just hold the handle and you're like, well, I'm holding a knife. There's really nothing to it. And then I've learned actually from a friend who had gone to culinary school, and one of the first jobs that really the first job I had in a restaurant, she explained that you want to grip the knife with the thumb and forefinger just above the handle here, and then wrap the rest of your fingers, trying to get turned to your camera, wrap the rest of your fingers around the handle. What this does is it allows you for more stability and control as you're cutting. And it'll feel weird at first, but when the muscle memory catches up, it actually will start to feel weird to hold the knife any other way. And you'll find that, at least I know I found that I had much better results in my knife work and keeping my slices even, although for this, I'm not paying very close attention to it. But for when it matters, especially if this is going to be for something that's going to be cooked, particularly with meats, and you're cutting it into pieces, you want them to be roughly as close to the same size as possible. Like even when we get to the asparagus later, it's going to matter because you want them to all cook at the same rate. The smaller the piece, the faster it'll cook. So if you've got little bitty pieces mixed in with big honking pieces, then you're going to end up with an uneven cook.
I've also noticed that when I changed and also did that correction with holding the knife that way, it really helped my wrist make sure that it's, didn't hurt after chopping carrots or really dense vegetables. It's actually
more ergonomic, even though initially it feels unnatural, but it's actually a little bit better for wrist health. I have carpal tunnel that I developed years ago, but I've never really run into much of an issue with the act of cooking and prepping aggravating my carpal tunnel. Although it's not like I'm doing it at a large volume either. So that can make a difference. And not to worry, our counters are all sanitized here. Chasing cucumbers.
They're perfect wheels.
I know, right?
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, all the cucumbers and the grape tomatoes.
And next up will be the onion. We will not be using all of that onion. I mean, you can, but then it's going to be more of an onion salad. And then I've known there's some people that'll eat an onion raw like an apple.
Me too.
If you love onions like that.
If you love onions and you want to use the whole quarter, you're welcome to it. Or you can, what would you say you would add, like maybe a half or an eighth of the onion? I'm just gonna see.
It's really the kind of thing for me, I've never really measured it. I look at the volume. Let's get a shot of the bowl here. So I look at the volume and the mixture of the cucumber and tomato. How much salad do I have? The onion it's a tomato cucumber salad. The onion is an accompaniment. So I want about the amount of tomato and cucumber ideally would be even. In this case, we have a little bit more cucumber than tomato, but that's fine. I would want no more than half that amount in onion.
Okay.
Just to complement it. Okay. So now for me, when it comes to onion, I like to get it really, really super thin. Again, personal taste. And we have it already cut into a quarter here, which is some of the work already done for you. I'm going to be cutting along.
Yep.
I'm going to be cutting along this surface here so that we get these half moon shaped slices just to make it look pretty. Now, when you're doing this on your own, you start with a whole onion. You can do chunks. You can do petals. You can dice it up. It's really however you like it because it's all aesthetics. So it's going to taste the same no matter what shape it is. I'm going to discard the cut in that usually dry out sometimes. So we're going to start with a fresh cut.
And just as thin as possible.
Yeah, but that's just to my taste. So you don't want it that thin. You like your onion have a little more weight to it. So, now it is a little awkward because it's already cut. If you start with a whole onion, it'll be flat on the board. It will make it a little easier.
But yeah, as thin as possible on your onions.
Okay, and what I'm doing here to kind of compensate for it being in the shape that it is to begin with, I'm holding the bottom edge here flat and just kind of pulling the knife back to form my slice and down. Like a few more cuts and I think that'll be it.
And this thinness of the onion will
Yeah.
really absorb the marinade and won't be
It will.
as harsh or
It will. And I tell
acidic,
you, if we do this again, maybe we'll go with a half onion.
Mhm.
Because if I'd had it flat and stable, I would have been able to cut it down to probably more than half that.
See through.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But this is plenty for me. If you
Okay.
want to use more, by all means, use more. And so I can get this into the salad there. And we'll give it a good mix.
How you guys doing?
Okay.
Are you on the onion yet? Were you still on cucumber? Let us know.
All right. And then for this, we're going to, now we just add the dressing.
Awesome.
Pour it right in. It should be measured pretty well for the amount that we gave you. If you want to use less, again, there's so much in this that's optional. You can use less. If you want more, well, that's how much we gave you. But but there's always the option of going with your own vinegar and oil combination.
Tony says, good.
Yep.
Alia says, done with onion. Awesome.
Good,
I'm so
good,
glad.
good.
Yeah. And we
you could
like
grab
this
your-
dressing. We
did.
tried this last
This
week.
was something a little different, this particular dressing, and we like the taste of it. But you can go with your favorite Italian dressing from anywhere. You know, it can be your favorite raspberry vinaigrette or balsamic or just a zesty Italian or whatever. The idea for it to get this particular taste that we're looking for here, you want it to be a vinegar oil, a vinaigrette based dressing. I suppose it could work with ranch, but I don't. That's do you.
And you had thought about maybe even using rice vinegar, that sweetened rice vinegar, because that's really good.
Around the idea of there's sweetened rice vinegar. It's often marketed as sushi vinegar that you can use along with oil to create the vinaigrette for this, or just take your regular rice vinegar and add. That's why you have sugar in your pack. You can add in to sweeten it up. So if the taste that you have right now is not sweet enough to your liking, grab that little cup of sugar we gave you, and you can toss some in and mix it in a little at a time, taste as you go until you get it right where you want it. But for us, we're going to call this done.
Yeah. And we didn't even add salt. We thought that the dressing was salty enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, salt and pepper to taste, that's standard in every recipe I think ever written.
Yeah.
So again, taste it, season it, get it how you like it, and then we'll move on to the next step.
So I think we're just going to put saran wrap on this and then stick it in the fridge to let it marinate. You could technically leave it out on the counter if you wanted to too.
Good.
But if you've got room in the fridge, that's what we're gonna do. And yeah, this is the dressing that we use is the Brianna's dressing. I think the garlic and herb marinade. So I think that you can use it for chicken or other things like that. Yeah. We're gonna pull out the chicken and the bacon.
We got the chicken and bacon here. We're gonna get to that in a little bit, but it'll be fine there for a little while. And we'll just, that's the rest of the onion that we didn't use.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's our.
Okay, so we're gonna continue on with our produce prep.
Right. So moving on to the, this is a component for the chicken dish. We have our fresh basil. So the basil is going to be used twice in this dish. One as part of the chicken, and then later on, I'm going to show you how to chiffonade it to get those little thin strips for garnish. But we're going to wait until we're ready to garnish it so that the cut basil doesn't bruise and turn brown on us. For the chicken, we're going to be using the leaves whole. So pull out your basil and go through the stems that you have. You're looking for medium to small leaves. And, you know, Mother Nature did not consult us on what we needed. So you just have to kind of work with what you can find. But you want a total of 2, 4, did we say?
Yeah.
4 to 8, depending on the size. Because we're going to have 4 slits in 2 of the chicken breasts that are going to be holding the basil. So we'll need some. So that should cover like one slit of 1 chicken breast. And if you end up with a bigger piece, that's fine, because then that will work by itself.
Yeah.
So this is about the size range you want to look for.
Okay.
If you have to go with a bigger one, like apparently I do, because I don't have too many small ones to choose from, but that works out just fine.
So yeah, we're using some of the small basil leaves for stuffing into the chicken, and then we're leaving some basil leaves uncut so that we can slice them up as a garnish when we're
Mhm.
fully done. So
So
feel
one,
free. And this
two,
basil comes
three.
from Green Pantry Nursery, which is a really awesome small family farm near Tuscola, about a half hour away, and they do our
I
fresh.
actually have plenty, and I've decided I don't want to go with the one large leaf
Sure.
wherever possible.
Yeah.
I think it'll make it easier in the long run than to use multiple smaller leaves. However, you have plenty of extra basil. You're not going to need more than 3 or 4 big leaves
Mhm.
for the garnish. That'll be plenty because the yield on it will be. You
Cool.
think?
Yeah.
That'll be good.
So we're saving like 3 big
Three of
leaves
the large
for
ones
the
for the
chiffonade
garnish.
later on.
And then, I mean, if you love basil, you can always have extra.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt anything at all. So we got a little extra there. I
And-
love basil.
You might, and depending on the basil, just make sure you discard any of the ones that have gotten
Oh,
black
yeah.
or darkened.
Like here, this one's a little past its prime.
So we'll just
we
get rid
won't-
of
we
that
won't
one.
do that.
Okay, so yeah, we've got about eight leaves here that we're gonna end up using to stuff into the chicken. And then our other leaves are waiting for us. We don't want to chiffonade the garnished basil for later in the dish now, otherwise it will turn black. So we're gonna keep it waiting.
I've got a little bowl here for our basil as it relates to the chicken. And then this, we didn't grab an extra bowl.
So Kat has all of these cute little bowls that she brought from home. So if you're welcome to do the mise en place, separating of
Honestly,
ingredients.
I can't cook if I don't have it organized like this. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay. And then we're gonna move on to the asparagus now.
Okay, and how's everybody doing? Do you guys need need us to slow down at all? Are you guys with us? So we were done with the veggie salad and just did basil. Now we're gonna move on to the asparagus. Ooh, Larissa
Okay.
says the dressing is really good. I know. We were really happy
It's
about
really
it.
good. I'd like to take credit for having made it, but it was really good. So with the asparagus, maybe you want to get from this side so they can see the
got it.
ends there.
So everybody got a bunch of asparagus.
Right. Now, I know the recipe was written, it said 12, but that was with, you'll notice that this is a much more pencil thin
Mhm,
asparagus. So that's why we gave you more than 12 to
mhm.
work with, but it's intended to be 2 servings. So you can use it all, you can use a little, asparagus, it isn't, some people like it, others don't. So it's whatever amounts you like.
Mhm. And everything is good with bacon bits and corn. So we're probably going to use all of the
Oh, yeah.
asparagus
I'm
today.
gonna use all
So
of it.
maybe I'd recommend that because it will be extra pretty and
All right.
it sautés really well.
So I know that some mini cooks struggle with trimming the asparagus. Now there is one trick that I only recently learned about, and I'll do it once here for demonstration, but it's not really my method. But the end of the asparagus, you notice it's very woody, almost like almost like a stick. So that's inedible. You don't want that going in the pot. But right about where the color begins to change, it goes through this purple and then on into the green, is where you have like your good asparagus come in. If you take the 2 ends and you just pull it and let the plant snap it off, it'll usually be right where the good asparagus is. I don't care for this method, one, because I like my ends to be neat. And then I'm losing, that's a bite rate.
Mhm.
I want all my bites. So that was one for demonstration. Just going to trim down the end. Now the method that I use, much the same, you're going to look at the color. So right around in the purple range is where you're going from edible to inedible asparagus.
Mhm.
This one looks like it's mostly edible. So we're just gonna take the end off of that guy.
Yeah,
You can
nice.
see there that it's nice and juicy and fresh in there. So
Mhm.
you know that one's working.
Yeah, if it's usually if the end is wet or shiny when you cut it, it usually
That's
means
how
it's
you know.
gonna be not fibrous.
So gonna do a few at a time and try to line them up. Sometimes you can do it one at a time. It can get to be time consuming. We're gonna try to do these in smallish batches. And if you lose a little bit of the good asparagus, that's fine. What you want to avoid, when I went down, see this one is still a little woody
Mhm.
there, and that went through much smoother.
So we're just gonna trim the ends of the asparagus, and then once they're done trimming the ends, what are they?
Then we're gonna cut them into 1-inch slices.
Okay. Nice.
Second batch here. Now here we've got one that broke. If you were doing something where you want your asparagus kept whole, of course, that'd be no good, but we could cut it anyway, so that's fine.
When I grew up in Chicago, we had a house that had a really, really old asparagus plant that was probably more than like 30 or 40 years old. And so as we would garden, it would always be kind of fun to see where they're shooting up. And I think I was exposed to asparagus early on, so I've always liked it. It's always, you always know it's spring or going into the summer when it's coming in season.
All right. So now we've got them all trimmed,
Okay.
and now we're just gonna cut them down into roughly 1-inch slices. This thing bite size. Ideally, you'd want to keep the tips intact,
Mhm.
but again, we have to work with what the plant gives us. That's, I don't know. So now you get a good shot of that.
Yeah.
So that's about what you're looking for.
And these are going to
we pan
saute.
around so you can see the tips.
These are going to saute really well too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're gonna run through the rest of it. Oh, not there.
And
This is just the garbage bowl.
yeah.
So we can thank Rachel Ray for that little tip I picked up from watching her. Yeah, on this one, only because it broke, I'm just gonna give it a little trim there because the end is probably dry.
And these are going to saute so well. They'll get all bright green.
And you can do this as many pieces at a time as your knife is long enough to accommodate.
For most of this, we're using just a nice chef's knife.
Mhm.
But you're using a paring knife for the tomatoes because those are always hard to.
And I have a separate knife that I'll be using for the meat. Not
Mm.
really necessary, but for me, it's just a cross-contamination thing. Working now in a professional kitchen, I've developed certain habits where I'm gonna have a different cutting board for, and these are good habits to have anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Different cutting board for the meat. I'm gonna be using a different knife, just so I don't have to take the time to watch the knife if we're going back and forth.
Mhm.
So just have a dedicated instrument for each type of food. Okay, so you might get some that are a little funny looking, like this guy here, but I think it's gonna be fine.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to point it out. And you're looking going, I don't know if can we eat that? Is it okay? It's not showing signs of decay, not rot. It just looks like, he had a little accident. But
He
that's-
dried up.
Yeah. It'll be fine. This is short. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So there's all of our asparagus. Okay, we are almost there, folks, on the prep. Last step is going to be your sun-dried, oh, no, the garlic. That's
Garlic.
right. Next to last step is going to be, so you've got a couple of cloves of garlic in there. This was originally written for a jar of minced garlic, which is a huge time saver. There was a little bit of a miscommunication somewhere along the way, so we ended up with fresh garlic, but that's fine too. I'm gonna
And we're
rinse
just
some of
gonna mince it.
Yep.
So I think as small as possible.
Yeah,
And this is gonna be for the balsamic glaze.
yes, for the balsamic glaze, and you also have the garlic powder in there. If this proves not to be enough garlic for your liking, feel free. But when we get to it later on, you can add in the garlic powder. Most people will have garlic powder in their pantry as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So for peeling the garlic, we're just going to press it slightly with the flat of your knife. And then get in here. It's a little tedious.
Yeah, so
Let's
there's
get all of the paper off.
one of the only two changes that we are doing for the recipes are that we're going to use the garlic powder that was originally going to be potentially in the asparagus.
I included it in the asparagus as an optional ingredient. If you like garlicky asparagus, then by all means, you know, be my guest. But then when we saw that we had the fresh garlic and not quite as much as I would like for the balsamic, we made the decision on the fly that we're going to throw the garlic powder in with the balsamic glaze instead of with the asparagus.
And then I think the only other thing is that the Italian seasoning that we gave you, we probably gave you more, potentially more than you need for that. That's just going to go for the chicken.
Right. Well, it was originally intended for the salad.
Right.
But then we ended up with the salad dressing that already had all of the seasoning in it that we needed. So, but the Italian seasoning was actually going to be used in two places. So you will be seasoning the chicken breast with some of the Italian seasoning.
And that's just from our...
If you're not familiar with peeling fresh garlic, there's this end that's attached to the entire bulb. That's like really not edible. You don't want that ending up in your food. So we're just going to trim that little tip off. Oops. Throw it away. And do the same with the other clove. I remember when I was a kid in the 80s on PBS, which was Channel 11 in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up watching one of the chefs that I liked was Martin Yan. His show was Yan Can Cook. And this man did everything. He was Asian because he's Chinese. And he did everything with his cleaver for everything. And this man would take a bunch of garlic out of that big wide cleaver and just whack, and all of the garlic was peeled. And then he get in there and with the cleaver, just no. I will lose a fingertip if I try to do that. So
I grew up in Chicago too. So watching WTTW cooking shows was my childhood as well. We shared that.
So garlic is a little tricky because it's small, close work. For this, I think because this is a larger clove, I'm gonna cut it first lengthwise.
As thin as possible.
As thin as possible without sacrificing any body parts. And then try to give those slices a turn as best you can. And then just kind of go at it and hack away at it. Carefully.
You guys doing well? We're just gonna mince up this garlic. But we're happy to answer any questions. So if there's ever anything you wanna, feel free to write it in the comment. I'll make sure it gets to Kat. We were talking earlier before the class about Julia Child.
Where's my wine?
Yeah, we should have included that in the kit. We'll do that next time. I always watched with Jack Pepin.
Jack Pepin taught me how to make omelets.
Oh yes. He's now I follow him on Facebook and he does like little videos still.
I've seen it.
He's great.
So when we get to this stage, it's still a little bit bigger than we like. One thing I've learned about garlic, if you don't cook with garlic a lot or don't know, the smaller the cut, the more intense your garlic flavor will be. And so here we're gonna do, everybody's seen this, right? So just gonna take the knife and rock it across this pile. Try to get it as little as possible. And slide them on the edges there to get it off, and the rest of it is sticky. But just cold water comes right off.
Casey and Amanda says, no questions, easy to follow along. So glad. Glad you're here.
All right, that's good enough. That's
Okay.
it. That's as small as what you get out of the jar for the most part. Okay, I'm gonna get this sticky.
Okay. I love garlic, but with watermelon season, I've been scorned a couple times because I chop up garlic, clean the cutting board, and then I chop up watermelon, and then I was like, no. So if you're gonna be chopping up watermelon or other melons this season, make sure you're not using one that you use garlic
Right.
cutting board that you just use.
All right. So we're actually, I think, done with this cutting board.
Okay.
now.
Except yeah, because
Right, we're gonna use the little one.
So one of the things that we're gonna do next is the slicing up of the sun-dried
Sun-dried
tomatoes.
But because it's so oily, I didn't want, and we're gonna come back to this cutting board later when we chiffonade the basil. I am opting to switch to a smaller cutting board just for this, because I don't want to take the time to have to wash the cutting board. But it's not essential that you switch out. Yeah, let me just sit it there. And you'll notice underneath here, I've got a wet paper towel. If you run into problems where your cutting board is trying to slide away from you, a wet paper towel, just place it right under it. It'll hold it in place like tape.
Mhm.
So put this one here.
And then the other something worth note is we want to save the oil in the
Absolutely.
sun-dried tomatoes.
This is your cooking oil. You notice there's no canola oil, no extra virgin olive oil apart from the salad for this recipe. We're going to be cooking in the same, and this is just extra virgin olive oil that has been had these sun-dried tomatoes living in it for long enough that it has taken on a flavor thanks to the tomatoes. So for this, like with everything else, we're going to have a total of 4 of the cuts that are going to go into the chicken are going to contain these sun-dried tomatoes. So, and we don't use the tomatoes themselves for anything else. So actually looking, there's so few in here that if you had a big jar, you'd want to go through and pick out the best looking ones, but it looks like they did that for you. Great job, Coach.
Yeah.
And so here, again, with this being close work, I'm going to switch back to the paring knife. If you're comfortable with the larger knife, by all means, it will work. And we're just going to go for very, lengthwise, very thin slices. Actually, I think this knife is making a liar out of me. Let's go back to the bigger knife. See if that works a little better. Yeah. So bigger knife works better. Yep. And that's good. That's about the size we're looking for. Let's get that shot.
And these little strips will be really easy to kind of stuff the chicken.
Yep. And probably won't use all of it, but it comes, I wrote this recipe with this is the minimum you need in order to be able to say you made this dish. If you want more, use more. All right. So we've got all of those sliced and got a little bowl here for them. Okay. And we're holding on to our oil.
Yeah. Keep that oil. We'll use that to sear the chicken.
Okay, we're done with the little one. Okay, so my hands are greasy. I'm gonna give them a quick wash.
Has anyone ever made stuffed chicken or Hasselback chicken before? Feel free to let us know. I loved this recipe when Kat proposed it. So, and we tasted it last week and it's so good.
Last week we did a run through for this and it was probably of all the times that I've made it, it was probably the best result.
Yeah. And it's really, really moist. It would be a recipe that will be really tasty. It kind of keeps all of that moisture in the chicken, especially with using that glaze. So I'm excited.
We're going to need the produce knife later.
Okay, you got it. So save some of your cutting boards and your knives for later when we're doing the basil.
If you're isolating your knives, one for veggie, one for meat, hold on to your produce knife. We're going to need it one more time later on when we prepare the garnish for the chicken, but that's at the very end.
And then I guess the only other comment about the recipe cards are that we're going to need a saute pan eventually for the chicken. And we want to make sure that it has a lid.
Yeah. So I went back and forth on whether or not to include a stint in the oven for this. Ultimately, I settled on a 100% stovetop method for it. So your cards say oven safe pan. That doesn't matter for this. But as she pointed out, we neglected to mention that you absolutely will need a lid for it. Because of the way this chicken is being prepared, there's no flipping. So you're going to need the lid in order to hold your, enclose your heat and get the chicken cooked through completely.
Okay.
Okay, the meats. So
Meat. So we're getting a new cutting board for our meat.
get our meat cutting
And
board
then
out.
which one do you want to do first?
The bacon.
Okay.
Start with the bacon. Now, again, this is just me. And it's in part from working in a kitchen that the health department comes to look at from time to time. I brought gloves. Technically, I should have been wearing gloves for the salad because that's a ready to eat
Oh, yeah.
food. But it doesn't matter in a home kitchen.
Yeah.
But handling raw meat, we're gonna use some gloves for that. The irony is the health department doesn't care if I touch the meat because nobody's eating this until after it's cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
Good.
I care.
Yeah. And just making sure that you're washing anything that touches the chicken extra well. So we're starting with the bacon first, because then you can use the
You
cutting
know what? I'll
board.
hold on to that back. Well, we're not gonna need it.
No,
I'm gonna
we're
use
good.
all of it.
Yeah. All right. So this is the applewood smoked bacon that we have at the co-op. That's one of my favorites.
For making our own bacon bits, the thicker, the better. I know a lot of people like really thin, crispy bacon for like their bacon at breakfast. But we're going to be cutting this into little dices. So you want a thicker, thick cut bacon. And me personally, even when I have bacon for breakfast, I like the thick cut.
Me too. Me too. I love the apple smoked or any smoked bacons.
We gave you half a package. I believe the recipe said 4 slices. Once again, like with everything else, these amounts are generalities. It really comes down to personal taste. And it looks like I have 6 slices here. So to make things a little easier, I'm going to do these 3 and 3. I've got my separate knife here for meats.
So you're just stacking them up in half and then.
Right. Stacking them in half. And what we're going to do is cut it lengthwise and then cut those slices into little dices. However, given this is so long and it's got that irregular bacon shape to it, I'm going to start with just cutting it in half.
Okay.
Just so I have a smaller piece to work with.
Okay. So cut in half widthwise and then cutting those corners.
Unless you got bacon where it's like perfectly rectangular, you may not feel you need to, but it's easier to work with the smaller piece. So it's a question of, where you feel comfortable.
So this is going to be like a small dice. So you're cutting it lengthwise again.
Lengthwise again. And these pieces are a little on the wide side at that. So if you've got skinnier pieces, maybe 1 cut down the middle will be sufficient. This is bigger than what we had before. You think?
Maybe, yeah.
So I'm debating if I want to cut this again, but that doesn't leave very much to work with, and it'll cook down too.
Yeah, I think
So we're going to leave it as is. Sometimes I do too much. And then turn it the other way. And now we're going to make little slices. And just being the type of meat that it is, you're going to get some, the sharper your knife, the better for it to be able to cut clean through. If you place the tip and pull back in one motion, usually you can get a clean cut that way.
And we're doing like 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch slices for the bacon.
Yeah. Just a little bigger than you think of bacon bits because the meat's going to shrink and that fat is going to render down. There's that. I had a bowl set aside for it.
I can get you one.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I used it for the tomato. That's what I
Do you want one of these?
I got it.
That one?
Yep. We're just going to transfer that. Just that. I wanted the bigger
We love
ones for the
using these
bacon.
bowls. They'll make it really easy when it comes to when we're cooking everything. So if you feel like joining us on the bowl, have it. And how many of you are cooking with another person? I think I see Tracy and Amanda are cooking together. I'm always curious if you're cooking for somebody or you're cooking together. So feel free to enter in the chat. But you're probably also cutting bacon. So you let us know.
I did not put a new paper towel under it. Can you
Yeah,
get
I
a
can
wet
get you
paper
one.
towel for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be wet.
Aaliyah says together. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, just a moment. I'm gonna put this down for
Yeah. Open it out.
you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. We just put another towel underneath the cutting board so
Little
it's
technical
stable.
difficulties. Sort of.
Oh, Tony and Chloe are cooking together. That's awesome.
Tony.
And Chloe, yeah.
Oh, Tony's niece. No, I have a brother named Tony and
Oh,
a
you
niece
do?
named Chloe.
You do?
Yeah, but not
Okay.
his daughter. It's his niece too.
Oh,
Yeah, my
nice.
sister's daughter. And so I'm like,
Well,
no.
you're basically family.
I was like, yeah, but Tony always introduces himself as Anthony. He's very formal.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I was like, maybe that's not.
No, Tony is he's one of our awesome participants. He's been taking our classes. I wonder how many classes you've
Hi,
taken, Tony. Yeah, thanks for always supporting the co-op and our classes. It's so great whenever I see your name signed up. And we're already basically got our instructors lined up for the rest of this year, but we're always looking for other instructors to teach virtual classes for 2024. So if you're a passionate cook and want to share certain recipes, you let us
Okay.
know.
I'm noticing this piece, and it's just the randomness that you get. It's a little too fatty, like all of that. You want some fat, of course, but I am going to just trim that off. So you get, again, no one, told the pig what we needed. So you just have to kind of work with what you have and improvise, make adjustments as you go.
Yeah. Chloe says, we've taken 6. That's amazing. 6 classes with us.
Nice. All right, almost there, folks.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about these virtual classes is that everybody gets to do the full experience and then enjoy the entire recipe
Right.
afterwards.
As opposed to just sitting there watching me
Yeah.
cut stuff with nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fully hands-on.
Yeah. Now, having been to the in-person classes, yes, there's a part where you're basically standing there just watching the person work. But the upside is that you have that face-to-face interaction.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually smell what's being cooked once that stage gets underway. And of course, then you get to taste it all at the end too. So the in-person classes are really great.
Yeah. And for some of the in-person classes, we'll come up with like an alcohol or a drink pairing, which is always fun.
Yeah, 21 and up, folks. 21 and up.
So I think the Taste of France series that's been happening this summer, they have been having a ball because we bring in all of these pairings.
Yep, I tore my glove.
Oh, that's okay.
Occupational hazard. It's better than the last time.
Yeah.
Yes. Sarah's gotten to witness me trying to add a little bit of myself to the dish, if you will.
Well, these knives, we got these really nice knives off
Really
Amazon.
nice. I like that hammered.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to get some.
Yeah, I think they were only $20, but
Mhm.
they're that kind of Japanese style knife. So if you are looking for a new knife, I really recommend these.
Are these the new Ginsu knives? Remember the old TV
Oh,
commercials?
I know.
Can I throw up a tomato and
Cut it through the air.
so?
No, not yet.
No.
But maybe if you come to the knife sharpening.
No, I'm not ever for me. I don't think I can do them.
But yeah, I definitely recommend these knives. We talked about this a little bit before, but for the most part, I only really prep with a chef's knife. Sometimes I'll do pairing knives, maybe for like strawberries or other
Yeah,
things like
real small,
potatoes.
close work like that. Yeah.
But having a chef's knife that you're really comfortable with just makes
It
it
becomes
that
an
much
extension of
easier.
your arm.
Yeah, I think one of the struggles is when you're uncomfortable or not used to certain types of knives.
Mhm.
I feel like that's more of the risk of cutting
Right.
yourself or something like that. But something that you're really used to that you use all the time, that's what I
Yes.
suggest.
And I have learned, I used to think that I wasn't really very good, especially with knife work.
Yeah.
And then I realized when I got into, more professional kitchens, and got my hands on that equipment, like, no, it's just my knives are crap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they were, lesser quality. Don't get your kitchen knives from the dollar store, folks. I know not everybody, and believe me, I am nowhere close to made of money. But you don't want to go the absolute bottom of the barrel because it's just going to be poor quality and it probably won't matter how much you sharpen it.
Yeah.
So you want a decent quality knife.
Mhm.
I'm not well versed on the different brands to even try to recommend, but you want a decent quality knife. Like you said,
Yeah.
about $20 it seems like a lot for a knife. I know it'd be a lot for me,
And
but
some people will
but it's
even
worth it.
spend, hundreds of dollars on like
Yeah.
these special knives. But as long as you feel, I mean, it's one of those things that's like, how often are you buying knives?
True.
Maybe unless you're like a knife connoisseur or something.
Something, right.
But it's something that will last
What are
you.
you doing with those knives?
I'm sure there's a few characters that are knife collectors, but yeah, I feel like overall it's like once you have these knives, you have them for years and years, and then you can just get them,
It's-
sharpened really well.
And that's the other point I was going to make. It won't matter how good the quality is on the knife. If it's as dull as the edge of this board, if it won't cut butter, it won't cut butter. Okay. And
So
so
we're all done with bacon. You
We're
guys
done
still
with the
working on
bacon.
your bacon? You let us know.
a hunk of fat trying to. All right. All right. I'm going to change gloves real quick for this all bacon greasy. I'm going to give
Mhm.
this a bit of a rinse.
Okay.
We're just going from one raw meat to another, so it's
Yeah.
not that critical.
And this chicken that we're gonna eventually start
that's coming up
prepping,
next.
this is a local Amish chicken that comes from about like a half hour away. So they're one of our awesome farmers.
All right. And now the chicken. This is what we've been waiting for. That wasn't the safest way to do that, but
So everybody's got 2 chicken breasts.
mhm. So when you take a look at your chicken, it's got the rounded side and the flat side. We want to take a look at the flat side first. Because you're gonna here's your tenderloins. Now, this is actually gonna end up in our way. So usually, like when I've butchered from a split breast,
Yeah.
you can just pull the there we go. Usually the tenderloin will pull away cleanly. I probably should have saved that. Give me a grab me a plate of that.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And you can throw this or a bag that one hand, but we'll throw it on there.
Yeah.
You can save the chicken tenders to use for something else later. Or throw them. I mean, this is when they say chicken tenders, it's this breaded and fried. But won't be using it for this recipe. And because of the way we're going to prep the front side of the chicken, having this extra piece of meat at the back will, as I said, it'll kind of get in our way. So
this way it will kind of be flatter.
right.
And the chicken tender usually it's so separate sometimes from the chicken breast that it might give you an off reading when you go to temp.
Exactly. And so now we've got the chicken breast here, and you want to lay it out as flat as you can on your board. This is where we're going to be performing the Hasselback, and this is admittedly tricky. So you want to look at the thickest part of your breast, kind of ignore the little tail end there because there's not enough meat for us to work with. But from about the thickest part on down, we're going to put 4 roughly evenly spaced slices but not all the way through. The idea is to make a pocket. So here, I'm gonna start up here at the thickest part near the top. You want to leave enough meat around it though, because you know it's a pocket. And I think, yeah. So I'm starting with the back end of the knife. I'm gonna pull across to get it sliced in somewhat. And then when I reach the end, use the tip to really get in there and cut it open.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's
that's the
not
result we're
fully-
looking for.
And there's still
No.
like maybe like a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch on the border of the chicken breast.
So on each side, you want to leave some so that the breast will hold its integrity, as well as, you know, on the top and along the bottom. That's why we took the tenders out.
Mhm.
You're looking for about halfway, maybe 3/4 down. If you don't feel it's deep enough, take the tip, go a little bit more. That looks like
Yeah,
enough
that's
for
great.
me. So that's what, like, maybe up to the end of your fingernail is
Mhm.
how much space you're looking for, because we got to
Cool.
put all that stuff we prepped is going in there.
Yeah.
And so then just sort of eyeball it and place your next one, but we're looking for a total of 4.
4 cuts. And this
And
will
we
allow
can't,
us.
oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say these being able to stuff it will allow the chicken to be really flavorful and kind of absorb the different ingredients, and then it will be really fun when you're eating it to get pieces and little pieces of
Yeah, that little
beef.
pop, that little bite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We cannot repeat this enough. The sharper your knife, the better. A dull knife will have you in tears, and not because well, actually it's easier to cut yourself with a duller knife too, because you'll have to use more force
Mhm.
to get the job done, which means it's more likely for an accident. But yeah, a dull knife will have you so frustrated, like why isn't it cutting? And I used to think it was me. It wasn't. It's the knives. Oops. See, that happens. But it's
It's
okay.
okay. Oh yeah.
Now, when we did this practice run last week, I found that I had cut the so that can happen, and that's okay. It was still we could still make it work.
Yeah, because we're gonna basically sear it,
Yeah, the
sear
bottom.
the bottom.
Mhm.
But the top part where you're filling it in, that's
Yeah.
basically just gonna be kind of braised. It won't be flipped. You won't flip
Right,
it.
we will not be flipping this chicken. So this is what your end result should be, something close to that. This one's a little shallow, but this is also where the meat's getting thin,
Mhm.
and I don't want to cut any deeper than that
Mhm,
because I'm
okay.
trying to not go all the way through. So
You did more of your cuts towards the thicker part of the chicken, and then
Yes,
as it
you want-
thins out, it's harder probably to put a slice through. So
Exactly. So you want to work where you have the most meat. And this is just me being picky. I'm gonna trim this little piece of fat off. Okay, and then we'll do our best to heat it in the second press.
and then having these slices will actually make it easier for this chicken to cook too.
Yes.
Like a venti.
You have more surface area
Mhm.
for the heat to get to. And it presents really nicely when it's all done.
I could see this also being amazing on the grill,
Mm,
you know.
mhm.
but that balsamic glaze is so nice.
I'm leaving roughly, what would you say that is between slices?
It's probably
About
like
3/4, half an inch,
3/4 inch.
3/4. 1, 2, 3, and then I got some. It's a little more meaty than it looks like there.
Mhm.
So
And we would love to see pictures of your dinner at the end. So if you ever want, definitely tag the co-op when you're plating up your meal at the end of this class. We'd love to celebrate all of our participants who are cooking.
this one up here, because where the breast is beginning to narrow, so it's a little short. but I've got more meat here. I'm gonna make it just
Make it
a
this deeper.
touch deeper.
Cool.
Yeah. All of this is judgment call, folks. So
Yeah.
you just have to take a look at what you have in front of you and do your best.
Mhm.
All right. So
Any
now,
questions so far? You're probably handling chicken, but yeah, so I guess what would be
I
the
wanna
next
take
step?
your time, too.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so now we're going to season up our chicken, and you start with a little bit of your sun-dried oil. Reserve as much of this as possible because this is what's going to go in the pan to cook it.
Okay.
But let's get
A
a
little spoon.
small. You know what? Can you?
You got
in
it.
my measuring cups there? Yeah, there's a hook where
Yeah.
you can take those off, or maybe we don't even need them.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Oh, here we go.
except it's everything else is in
Set
front of
this
it.
down really quick. So we're just gonna use a
Just a very, very small spoon.
Lost them. I think like this one.
Actually, I
than
want
that?
it like
The
the
last one?
littlest one. Yeah.
Got it.
Only because we have such a small amount of oil to work with. So this is not for measurement purposes, but just so I'm getting the smallest amount of oil possible out. This is 1/8 of a teaspoon, but just enough to coat it because I want to make sure to reserve and have enough left later for cooking. So a few scoops onto each chicken breast.
Mm-hmm.
May have to go back for more, but we want to coat it front and back. Yeah. It's a little easier if you have the whole jar of sun-dried tomatoes, because then you can just take your teaspoon or whatever and dip it in. You have a lot more to work with, but we have such a marginal amount. But as long as you can get that breast coated, you should be all good.
So just oil on both sides.
And in the slits.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Then we're gonna take our 1, 2, 3. Okay. We take our Italian seasoning.
Okay. And how much Italian seasoning? You're just gonna kind of shake.
Yeah, and this is, you put on enough until your old Italian grandma tells you it's enough.
And you'll do both sides, you think?
Yeah, we'll do both sides. Just get it spread around. This is also, there's one ingredient that we did not actually list in the recipes is the love, and you have to put it in. This is how you get the love into your food. You have to caress it.
Yeah.
That came out wrong.
You gotta care.
Yeah.
You're making a great meal.
Okay. Over.
Okay.
A little bit on the back side. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So putting the Italian seasoning on. We already put the oil on. We still have leftover oil. We didn't use it all. And now
We're done with that.
okay. And so I think now next step is filling the Hasselback.
Yep. All right. So we have 4 slices in each bread. We're going to be alternating. It doesn't matter which is which, but alternating fresh tomatoes, basil and sun-dried, fresh tomatoes, basil and sun-dried.
Okay.
That's why those numbers of how many pieces we have kind of mattered. And if you remember, I goofed and I shorted myself 1 slice of tomato. So one of them is only going to have 1, or maybe I'll cut it in half or something to fill it out.
So we're going to start with the coins of the fresh tomato, the fresh grape tomatoes.
As a matter of fact, wasn't that the one that I thought was short? I'll just put one in there.
Perfect.
See, so that's why I said in the end, it won't matter that much.
So you're doing like 2.
Yeah, but 2 coins per slice. this, I'm gonna make that a little bit deeper.
And this will allow it to kind of hold all the
Mhm.
filling.
Yeah, that's better.
Great.
And you want to get it nested in there as snugly as you can.
Okay.
And there's the one lone guy by himself. Did I miscount? I miscounted. Because we have, oh, you know what? I was doing 4 per slice. That's right.
Okay. So yeah, feel
So I'm like,
free.
how do I have so much?
Feel free to use all
But-
your coins.
Right. Basically, as many as you can get in there, as you want in there.
That sounds great.
Right. This is not an exact science, folks. And you know what? Yeah, you can
But
give
if you're
us a-
going through
a
the effort,
company.
it's nice to have it, flavorful and full of
Mhm. There we go.
ingredients.
So it ended up being
Perfect.
about 3 apiece, so we
Okay.
got a few extra.
Great.
But again, the idea was to make sure you had enough. All right. And then now for the other portion,
So basil leaf and
basil leaf.
first.
If you have smaller ones, you just kind of layer them across, but you're creating a little bit of a nest right there, right? And I did grab some extra. And we got a nice big one here.
Mhm. Look how colorful.
There. Just because I have them,
Yeah.
and just find somewhere to stick these couple
Yeah.
other ones. Because basil is delicious.
Mhm.
All right. And then on to, oops, try to get away.
And then sun-dried tomatoes.
And then the sun-dried
sauteed.
tomatoes, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I know we'll have enough here because we actually have like extra.
That's great.
Now, for me, I like to do the tomatoes in such a way that I can still see the basil.
Mhm.
Part of it is about the visual, just even just a little, the little hint of green
Yeah.
back in there. I noticed when we did that last week, some of them, it was like the sun-dried had completely obscured the basil.
Mhm.
So, but that's all,
Perfect.
it's all aesthetics. I mean, it'll taste the same, mostly. I think it tastes better when you like how it looks.
Oh yeah, agreed.
So
Okay.
that's pretty good. So our chicken is ready for cooking at this point.
So I think you had said maybe that rice, you were gonna put rice on.
Right. The rice is gonna come in. It's only gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes for the rice to cook. But then it's just kind of sitting, waiting. So I was gonna wait until about this stage. So this is not just sitting there getting cold while we were finishing out the prep. So we're gonna clear up and make some space here. Can you get
Okay.
me a baggie
You got
for
it.
that?
We can
And we'll
maybe-
stick it in the fridge or,
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe I'll just put some saran wrap on it
yeah,
really quick.
that'll work. Here, I'll do it. You're
Mhm.
holding it.
Okay. So we're just putting the chicken tenders away for another recipe. How's everybody doing? You guys finished with your chicken? I think we're gonna move to rice and probably the glaze, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna need
Actually, we're gonna do I think we'll do the glaze first
glaze first.
and let it sit.
Okay.
Then start the water boiling for the rice,
rice.
and then we'll move on to starting the bacon and the asparagus.
Great.
And all of that's gonna come in with the chicken.
Okay. So what you're gonna need for the rice and the glaze for both of those recipes, you're gonna need 2 saucepans with a lid.
Mhm.
Or if you have a rice cooker or an Instapot, you're welcome to do the rice that way. Everybody got a cup of long grain white rice. But I think Kat said that we're gonna work on the balsamic first.
And then I shouldn't have thrown away that lid.
That's okay. We've
Yeah.
got more.
Yeah.
All right.
Just making some room to work here.
Yeah.
This is the chicken. This is the glaze.
All
That's
right.
where we're going next.
So for the glaze, you're gonna need your minced garlic, your stick of butter, garlic powder, balsamic vinegar, and then the brown sugar, which we'll talk about. Make sure you don't use all of the brown sugar.
Exactly.
We're gonna use only a quarter cup. We gave you a quarter
Cup
cup
plus a
plus-
tablespoon.
Yeah, plus a tablespoon.
Okay.
So that's the only thing worth noting. If you that tablespoon of brown sugar, that extra tablespoon in your container here, that was just if you wanted to make your asparagus a little bit sweeter,
Mhm.
which we liked when we did it. So we'll walk you through this, but yeah, here's gonna be our saucepan for the glaze. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do.
All right. Oh,
Right.
so now we get this switched on.
Mhm. And then we use induction burners here, so sometimes ours is a little bit, it heats up a lot quicker. So you do what's best
Yeah.
with your stovetop.
We all know every stove and oven operates a little bit differently. And it's been quite the learning curve for me on these induction and the convection ovens
Yeah.
too, which are different.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, but what we're gonna do basically, it almost doesn't even matter the sequence that you put it in the pot. It's all going in the pot and cook it until it just comes to a slight simmer. It's just to incorporate it because it's gonna get its real cook later on with the chicken. Okay,
So-
at a good temp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with the butter. Just put the full stick in on medium heat, medium to high heat. And melt this down.
Need the.
Oh, yeah. Quarter cup, you got it. So next. Yeah. We're just don't want to burn or brown the butter.
Butter too quickly.
Right.
So we're gonna throw in, again, the sequence is not important.
So we did a melted butter with a quarter cup of
The
brown sugar and the
cup
entire.
of balsamic,
Mhm.
and then throw in the garlic. And because I like garlic, we're gonna throw in a little more.
So the garlic powder is also gonna go in there too. Ooh, and it's gonna smell so good. Our poor front of house, they love the smells that come from our kitchen. They're always so tempted. Some of them had a few bites when we made this recipe last week. So I'm sure it's about to get your house is gonna start smelling really good. So yeah, we threw in everything for the glaze and now we're just stirring it up. So it was all of the vinegar, quarter cup of the brown sugar, all of the minced garlic,
And the whole stick of butter.
whole stick of butter, and then we use the garlic powder
Right.
in this recipe.
Again, originally, let's turn it down some, sir. Because we don't want it, we're not looking for a boil. Just enough for the butter to melt, everything to mix in, and a low simmer. And as this was written originally, it would have been 4 teaspoons of the minced garlic.
Okay.
So those for my liking, those 2 cloves are just not enough garlic.
Okay.
So I threw in the whole garlic powder, but again, it's all just a matter of taste. If you're not that crazy about garlic and you want to reserve back on it at this stage, you can always add more. You can add garlic powder later and adjust the taste.
Mhm. This looks great.
To taste it right now, it's still kind of raw. It needs to reduce. It's going to taste very vinegary. You're going to think you did something wrong. It's a little too early to tell. Well, that's what I did. That's why it took me so long to get it right.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what is wrong with this?
Yeah, it'll
You got to let it cook. That's why it doesn't taste right yet.
And it will get sweeter as you cook it.
Balsamic vinegar is a sweet vinegar, as vinegar goes. And so you got your bits of garlic
Ooh,
down in
yeah,
there.
it's starting to smell great. That butter.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
So that's about where we want it now.
Yeah.
And
that.
we're going to.
So we're just turning it off now. Or do you want to keep it on low?
Keep it on because we're about to use it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're gonna move that there. And set that back.
So we're just moving the glaze off the heat since it's already melted and kind of gotten that foamy.
Not setting that on
foaminess.
just yet. The other neat thing with these induction stovetops is that like I'm not prone to, yeah, you do it. Right. At this point, even though it's still on, it will not actually generate the heat unless it has the right type of metal
Mhm.
pot. So it has to be stainless or cast iron for it to react to it. So you could even say you accidentally set something plastic here, it won't melt. So that's a nice safety feature in the
Yeah.
design of these
Yeah.
cooktops.
And then do you want to start on the chicken or do you want to do the rice next?
We're gonna get all of that started virtually at the same time.
Cool.
So I'm
Sounds
just making some room to work here.
Take it. Sounds good.
One of these, that's our temperature guide.
Okay. All right.
Set this because the chicken is going to be on this burner.
Mhm. So again, when we're thinking about different equipment, we're gonna have kind of a wider set stainless steel pan for the asparagus, corn, and bacon. And then we're working with like a smaller saute pan with a lid for the chicken. Ideally, something that has enough space to put all of that glaze and the chicken inside. And then the last will be for our rice.
Rice, yep.
So we don't have a rice cooker, so we're just gonna do a stovetop version.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna keep that off. Yeah, because you know if it sits there, it'll make the
get
pan
hot.
get too hot.
Mhm.
All right, so here for the rice, we're gonna get that underway, and all you need is that a measured cup?
This is an exact cup of rice.
That's a
yeah.
cup of rice.
Mhm.
Good. Just lost one of my cups under there. All right. So with rice, a lot of people go back and forth on how to cook rice. You know, there's that finger method for how much water, and you got to rinse it and whatnot. Everybody has a different school of thought. I have never learned that I needed to rinse or wash rice. I've never found that it was any harm done when I didn't. And I learned that it is a simple 2-to-1 ratio. However much rice you have, you want twice that amount of water. So we have a cup of rice, we're going to get 2 cups of water.
Okay.
And with rice, unlike a lot of other things that you boil, you don't really want to boil the water first and then add the rice. So it's going to all get started at the same time. Did you turn this on already?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. It's going to all get started at the same time. So we got our
2 cups water. To the
2
1
cups of
cup
water to
rice.
1 cup of rice.
Great. And then I can turn this on.
Now, different rices are different. This is long grain rice. I grew up with what used to be called Uncle Ben's. I think it's
Oh my
just
gosh,
Ben
me
now.
too.
We're not even going to get into that.
Oh.
But I grew up on Uncle Ben's long grain converted white rice. That's the rice that there are shorter grain rice. I've used arborio rice when I made risotto that one time.
Yes.
But that's the rice. So if you have a different type of rice, you know, when you want to do this again, or you get like the lesser, because Uncle Ben's is expensive as rice goes. If you get the lesser expensive rice that comes in a little bag, cook the rice how you know to cook that rice, because not all rice is created equal.
Mhm.
And so we're just going to cover that and let that it's going to come to a boil. Now, when I do this at home, I'll just leave it on a boil 15 minutes and it's done.
Okay.
But this
Induction.
stove, right? So I'm going to need a second pair of eyeballs
got
on
it.
that.
So I'll keep an eye on how this is boiling. Typically, we reduce it once we get the boil. So,
Okay.
all right.
So now we are getting started over here with our bacon.
Okay. So
We've got our little temperature cheat sheet here.
yeah, we're gonna
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
have a stainless steel pan for our bacon. Eventually, we'll also get our asparagus and corn.
Mhm.
But right now, we're just gonna.
We're going to start
Heat it
with the
up.
bacon. This is on a relatively low heat, or at least it's supposed to be. This freaking stove.
The funny thing that I always have to joke with these with the instructors that are getting used to the induction is like it immediately gets hot.
There's no preheating here. It's
No,
hot.
it's just
Instant.
hot and sizzling. And then once you add the cold ingredient, then sometimes it takes
It'll
it
cool
slows down.
Mhm.
So we're
We're
just
getting-
gonna simmer, we're just gonna cook this down.
Right, we're getting the bacon going. It's gonna be a slow start, because our goal here is to render out as much of the grease from the bacon and see it starting to stick. That's because we were a little too hot to begin with. But that's okay, because it'll all come off in the end.
And lower it maybe a little more.
Okay, the idea here is to, as I said, to slowly render out that fat so that that's going to be our cooking oil for the asparagus and the corn. Now, along the way, I love brown sugar on asparagus. So I'm going to be incorporating at least some of that extra tablespoon.
Mhm.
And we have salt and pepper.
And maybe it looks like I gave you more than, so
Yeah.
you might not have to use all the leftover brown
Yeah,
sugar.
if you dump it all in there and you're not sure what you're gonna end up with candied asparagus, which is not in itself a bad thing, but maybe not what you were going
Yeah.
for. So add a little at a time. Be very, very careful with the brown sugar though, because it being a sugar, it can easily burn if you have too much of it or if it's too hot.
Mhm.
So
How's
you're
everybody
gonna,
doing? You guys with us? Let us know if you need anything explained. So we've got one burner. I guess we're about to have all 4 burners going. So we've got rice is
this is
boiling.
just sitting.
Rice
rice is
about to
boiling.
boil. We've
Now,
got
you
our
don't need to
greens.
stir it. Now, the way I can tell at home is I can hear when the sound changes.
Uh-huh. It gets
But-
softer.
Right, but you're basically looking for most of the water to be absorbed. As I said, about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna turn this down just a little more, just so it can sit there and slowly render out that fat.
Our
now we're
glaze is
here.
still fine over here.
Yep, it's not even cooking, it's just waiting.
It's waiting
Yeah.
for the chicken. We've got our bacon here that's still rendering, and then we're heating up our stovetop for the
Yes.
chicken.
So the remaining oil, you can just throw it all in there because it's about exactly the right amount.
So yeah, your sun-dried tomato oil is gonna go into your chicken
Oh, not this
pan.
spatula.
Look at you, another one.
Oh,
The handle just came off of that one. Here, this is stable.
okay.
Okay, so
Actually, I only need to glove one hand just to get it in there.
we poured all the oil and it's just enough to.
See, and you got there were some bits in the
Mhm.
in the oil, and you got that little bit of a sizzle. Yeah, there's that sound.
We want that sizzle.
Yeah.
So only, we want it to be face up. We're not gonna be flipping this.
Don't you fall. All right, I'll just have to
Okay.
wash that here. Yeah.
Beautiful.
What's our sir?
Maybe you're gonna increase the heat on our bacon so it keeps going. So yeah, look at this chicken. It's gonna smell really good in your house.
You want to be really, really careful to watch your heat on the chicken. The risk here is because we're not flipping it, you don't really get to see what it's looking like on the bottom. And you don't want to have it go too high and too long, and you end up too burnt, too dark on the bottom. But if you look here, you'll notice before long, you start getting white along the edges here, because that's where the cook is coming in. And you got to be patient with it and allow it to cook. It's important, as I said, we're on about a medium heat. You get too hot, then it's going to be cooking the bottom before it's had a chance to cook through. But we're going to be looking for it to come to temp. And we're also looking to get a good color sear on the bottom. Yeah, I'm gonna turn this down.
If your chicken is sticking, you can lower the temp.
And it will self-release.
Yeah.
Just be patient with it.
Oh. Plus, we're gonna add all of the glaze, so it will
Mhm.
add that extra moisture to help it come
Yeah,
up.
it's a little stiff right now. There we go. There we go.
I'm just gonna see where it's at.
Let's take a peek. So you see, even though it was like kind of hanging on to the pan, it's not actually burning. So when the chicken is refusing to move, that's what's going to scare you. Like, oh my God, I'm burning the chicken. But as you can see, you're actually not. That's where it's getting this color in. So while that's going, and we've got it turned down enough that we don't have to watch it every second, you'll notice we're getting a pretty good cook on our bacon. It's okay that the bacon is partially done at this point because it's going to continue cooking along with the asparagus. So in with the asparagus.
Okay.
And at this stage, I am going to throw in not too much because the bacon brings a lot of salt to the party, but we just added the asparagus. I want the salt to be able to get in there as the asparagus is cooking, and a little bit of pepper.
Just a pinch of salt and pepper
Mhm.
into the asparagus and bacon.
Yep. And then because it drops when you add it,
Mhm.
so we're going to turn this up just a notch. Yep, and the rice is looking pretty good.
Lowered it a little bit because it was bubbling over, but
Okay.
I'll increase the heat.
You're not going to have this type of temperature continuity issues at home. It's just this type of cooktop. It operates so differently.
And then I'm gonna increase the heat on this one too.
Mhm.
How's everybody doing? You juggling? Your stovetop? Is that okay?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
We're going to switch.
All right.
And see, and now the chicken is starting to let go of the pan,
Cool.
as it should. So I know how weird it feels to not flip this chicken breast. I want to do it now, but we've got all of our beautiful stuffing on top. Can't do that. So, but again, we're looking at this line of white that's coming through. And not to worry, your end result is still going to be very pretty. So it's not going to have that, it's technically cooked, but it still looks as white as it's raw. Look to it, it's going to have very nice color to it.
Larissa says, my chicken doesn't look like it's doing anything. I would say it's possible, yet your stovetop, depending if you're working with gas or electric, your pan might just need a little bit more
Time
time
to heat up.
to heat, but you want kind of like a high heat to start off with that sear.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of, as it's searing, you can kind of take a look with your spatula, lift the chicken breast up to see what color you're working with. Yeah, Marjorie's like, my stove is much slower than yours, way behind.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
All right.
You guys, yeah, just you can crank the heat high for both the bacon and the chicken. That way you hear that sizzle for both of them. But yeah, that's okay. Ours is like an instantaneous saute. So
that's okay. You've got time to catch up because we do need to give this a little time to get cooked through. And I think are we calling it done?
Yeah, I was lowering it, lowering the temperature on the rice because it was bubbling over.
Okay. Meanwhile, if you've got your asparagus going, you'll notice that the color has popped. It's turned this very, very bright, almost St. Patty's Day shade of green, which is really, really good. That's what we want. The corn, as most of you well know, you don't have to do much of anything to it. You can almost eat it raw. And actually, some people do.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
this would be a great recipe to repeat. I think sweet corn is about to get harvested shortly. So having fresh sweet corn would be great.
And then my brown sugar, which I did
not
throw in yet.
So you're just kind of dusting the asparagus with a little brown sugar. Probably like maybe a teaspoon.
It's about a teaspoon or two. And again, it's one of those things, it's a question of taste.
But that
So-
brown sugar with the bacon will be
That's a
really
great
tasty.
combination. Yep, and I'm gonna throw in just a little more for good measure. And
Our chicken's
Alright.
looking
the
good.
chicken is looking good.
It's
I
the
am, and you
whiteness.
see it is self-released.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can flip that camera and
Mhm.
get a good look at the
Yeah.
bottom there. What are we looking at? You can see it better than I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So
So
it's
it's kind
pretty
of like
nice.
that tan brown
Mhm.
color.
Yeah. I am going to do a little pro cheating here, just to
See
be
where it's
sure of our temp.
So we're looking for 165 for the
Well,
chicken,
Not at this stage, so.
not,
Yeah, because I mean,
Before it's
I can
finished.
see, like, when it's done, you're looking at 165.
yeah.
I just want to see about where we were on it. It's still pretty low.
Okay.
That's good, though. What we're gonna do is, I think we're gonna go ahead and add in the glaze, because then it finishes,
Uh-huh.
right? So you're gonna take your glaze at this point. Because we got that good color on the bottom, we know it's starting to cook through, and this is what is going to help the entire rest of the breast to finish cooking. Oof, that vinegar is a little strong. So it doesn't necessarily
yeah,
have
I
to be,
got it.
it doesn't necessarily have to be all of it. For
Okay.
that, you have to kind of work with the dimensions of your pot.
Uh-huh.
For this pan, if I put all of it in there, the chicken will be swimming.
Okay.
So you want enough to just rise to, about this level on the chicken.
Okay. So if your stovetop is still, if you're still just getting your sear for the chicken, you want to wait until the bottom of your chicken has that nice brown color. And the edges of your chicken start to turn a little white, and then you add your glaze.
I
So
want to salvage some of my garlic out of here.
yeah,
We got a strainer.
yeah, we do. At least I thought we did. I've got a. Oh, where's that?
No, that's too big. I need something that's gonna catch the pieces of garlic.
Maybe.
No, and I need like a screen.
Let's see. know if we do.
No, looks like we don't have one. Oh, well.
I think
Well,
we might have a
if you
little
have a-
strainer.
if you have a
potentially.
strainer, then you can, wait, what's this? No. If you get to the point where you're pouring in that glaze and you find that, it's more than what you need in your pan, you still got your garlic in the bottom of the pot, grab a strainer and you can pour it through, maybe catch the rest of the glaze in a bowl or what have you. And you can catch that, you'll be able to separate out your bits of garlic and get it added into your glaze with the chicken. So we want to turn this up
Okay.
because it's sitting there kind of dormant.
So you want like a simmer, kind of a higher simmer.
Right, we want this to come to a simmer and then we're gonna lid it so the chicken can continue to cook.
So once you add the glaze, you want to add your lid so that.
And now I'm just throwing in the corn as the last step on the asparagus.
Okay.
You get that nice bright color.
And our rice is doing pretty good.
Yeah, the rice should be done. Looks done.
Maybe just a little longer.
We got a small spoon.
Yeah. Feel free to taste as you go. We're gonna try looking at our rice.
One of the easiest ways to be sure if your rice is done.
Is it?
Done.
Is it done?
Yep.
All right.
Let's come back to the asparagus here. And you can see a lot of what was, you're always gonna have some down in the bottom here, But a lot of what
Oh.
was initially sticking with the bacon is just working itself right back into the rest of the dish.
Mm. This is such a colorful meal.
Mhm.
Oh, I guess the other thing that we wanted to say is we haven't added the mozzarella yet. Should we add the mozz?
We forgot the mozz. I got so stuck on getting the garlic.
So we're gonna add the mozzarella on top.
Right. But even at this stage, you can see the chicken it's losing that raw pinkness. It's cooking through. And so just sprinkle a little bit across the top.
Oh, look at that.
Again, the cheese is as much or as little as you want. And once this is all done, we're going to be cooking this sauce down when we take the chicken out. Once it reaches temp, we're going to cook the sauce down to really make that glaze. It's not going to be, don't think syrup when we say glaze. Like, I'm not sure how to describe it, but just like a pan sauce. Yeah. Right. You threw in the mozzarella, good touch. Syrup.
Mhm. How's it smelling in your kitchen? Smelling good?
And at this point, it's a matter of really the asparagus is pretty well done to my liking.
Mhm.
If you
Can I
like
try?
if you like it crunchier, stop it sooner.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yum, yum.
Some people may like it softer. Let it cook a little longer.
Okay.
Me personally, even the bacon, like that bacon is cooked through.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like their bacon darker, crispier.
Mhm.
So you'll cook it longer in that first step.
Okay. And
So this is essentially done. I'm gonna cut it way down. Not
Tony says,
necessarily.
yum. Yeah, feel free. I want to know what you think of the corn bacon and asparagus. Definitely take a nibble, a sample, and then that will give you kind of an idea if you wanted a little bit more salt, pepper, or sugar.
Mhm. As a matter of fact, I do want one.
Yeah.
This is why I don't measure. Okay, yeah, that's it. I'm gonna take it sometimes.
So if you didn't have a temp a meat thermometer, what you're really looking for is no pink. And usually by the time that you're really simmering this and the cheese is all melted, ooh, yeah, look at this. It's getting that darker glaze color.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, so ideally you want like 365, but some,
160.
or sorry, 165. 365 is the oven. But yeah, you want to make
Yeah,
sure
it's
your
coming
chicken
up
is done.
fast now. 122. Not quite there yet, but it's coming. Don't do too much peeking though, because you're losing your heat and just make it take longer to cook. So give this,
That though, yum.
yeah, but it's looking nice. While that's going, we're gonna kind of get this place pulled together a little bit.
That sounds great. Because I think the only other thing that we have to do prep wise is
Is
just the basil.
Garnish,
Yeah.
that's it. So we can start plating
Okay.
the asparagus.
Any questions so far, you guys? You hanging in there? It's one of my favorite things knowing that everybody's cooking this recipe all together.
I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this. Okay. So it's good that you guys are, with the ovens that you have at home, needing to catch up a little bit. Gives us time to get the chicken cooked and get all of this plated.
Look how pretty. I'll eat that. Oh yeah, that little brown sugar at the end was really,
Mhm.
really great.
Get that nice sweet bite.
Look how pretty.
So,
That's fantastic. Okay. And then the rice is doing good.
we want to leave the rice in the pot.
Whatever you want. Yeah.
Ooh.
And we'll just clear some things off here. So for those of you that are interested in taking more classes, we've got a garden series that we're doing right now with the Land Connection, who does the farmers market, and they have all these herbalists and herb farmers that are teaching the classes. And so we've got a preserving herbs harvest class next Saturday. And that also can come with a kit. So we would give you everything that you need to infuse your own fresh herbs. So I can put that, I can send a reminder about that, that class. But if you're ever interested in learning how to preserve your herbs from the garden into different infused oils and vinegars, next weekend's class will teach you everything on that. This is looking good. And it looks like it's reducing pretty well. We have it on a really high simmer, and it's you can
Yep,
like see
we
it
are coming up to
caramelizing.
temp. We're getting there.
Look at how pretty.
62, 3. We are only a few degrees shy.
Yeah,
I'm tempted to go ahead and pull it now because carryover
yeah.
will keep it going.
Keep it cooking.
Yep. Checking a couple different spots.
Yeah, make sure you check different zones because with the Hasselback, you want to make sure.
Well, that's just in general when
Yeah.
if you're temping meat, if you're using a probe thermometer, you want to check in different spots. Like see here in the middle, I'm only getting 140 or 148. It's a little bit cooler, which is telling me it's not, because it's not an even piece of meat, so it's not gonna cook at the same rate. The tips are, I'm sure the tips are done.
Oh yeah.
You know, you could cut that piece off and eat it now.
Tempting.
No.
It's too pretty to do that.
True. Okay, we're gonna cover this and let it get.
Butter. You can smell the butter in that glaze.
We're gonna let this get a little bit further along.
Okay.
Because I don't want to pull it too early.
So once the chicken is done into temperature. Is it getting stuck?
Yeah, it doesn't like to go back in the case. Oh.
We're going to take, once the chicken is 165, we're going to take the chicken off, set it on a plate, and then reduce the glaze down just a little bit more. We've got about 8-10 minutes. How's everybody doing? Any questions so far?
Okay. Can you get that blue cutting board for me?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. We are close enough on the chicken that I feel pretty confident plating it. Like with most foods, it's gonna stay hot. It'll continue cooking even a little bit after it's off the fire. And it is so close.
The glaze looks pretty good and thick.
Yeah. And you know what? We had a step last week where we took the time to reduce this, but it looks like we've gotten ourselves a twofer, unless you want to add the rest of the glaze that's in the pot.
Oh, interesting.
Just so we have more liquid.
Yeah. So if you didn't use any of the leftover, if you didn't use all
of it, you can add some of the leftovers here. Now I'm getting my garlic that I want out of there.
You can just reduce this down for a little bit at a high simmer.
Not too hot.
Yeah.
It'll get away from you and it'll over reduce, burn, and it'll have that horrible burnt sugar smell to it. or taste to it, I mean, and smell.
But yeah, we're almost there. I think once we get this to, this will catch up. Oh, Judy says, we are sampling the tenders we cooked separately. With that glaze, it was so yummy. Nice. Good idea.
Good way to use, repurpose.
Yeah, take a page out of Judy's book. That's clever.
Okay, and now
balsamic
because
tenders.
we are almost there. We're gonna go ahead and make this garnish.
There's something just
Do
so
you- do we
peaceful
have
about
that,
looking at this
That
summary.
produce knife?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay.
Nice coming to you. So the last bit is that we've got this glaze reducing without a lid so that it can evaporate. And then we've got our little basil leaves that we saved earlier to chefing on. Larissa had a question. She said, I stuck the tenderloins into the balsamic chicken pan along with the breast just now. That's great.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
it
And
would
they'll
definitely work.
cook pretty quick.
so if you're making a chiffonade, which is basically, it's a French word, I think it means long, thin ribbon or something
Uh-huh.
like that. You're gonna take, it's usually with any kind of leafy herb, like basil. I've never really done it with anything but basil, but I guess
done it with,
parsley,
sage.
cilantro, sage,
Uh-huh.
anything that's leafy like this. And you'll stack your leaves, and then you want to roll it as tight as you can. Some of us have more experience rolling green things than others,
Ah,
but as tightly as you can.
okay. So stack them and then roll.
Stack them, roll them really tight, and then as thin as you can manage, you're going to start cutting that roll. There.
There you
And the
go. Look how
result you're looking for,
beautiful.
I didn't cut, all of them didn't cut all the way through, but it's good enough. It's just a garnish.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's what you're looking for your chiffonade. We probably could have used a few more basil leaves for this. If you find that you want more, grab some more. We have some of the leftover basil.
Oh yeah.
Matter of fact, got a little time. This is coming along
This
nicely.
is looking really good.
And give that just a few moments longer.
That butter makes it just like
It gives it
look,
this
yes.
unctuous,
Exactly.
almost velvety quality to it.
Exactly.
I'm doing a couple more
Cool.
basil leaves just really quickly.
And so I guess the aim will be that we'll pour the glaze again on the chicken once it's thickened up, and then garnish with the
With the basil.
basil.
There we go.
And then don't forget about your
Yeah.
about the salad.
Oh yeah, and the salad's in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's good. We're gonna spoon them to cut this off.
So this looks
I think
good
I'm
and
happy
thick.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost looks caramely,
Yeah.
you know?
So you see, this is the consistency we're looking for. It's
Mhm.
still, ooh, it's that garlic.
That vinegar.
I got the vapors. Yeah, that garlic, that vinegar gets you every time.
I got it exactly when you did too. I love it.
But you know, it's not quite as thin as water, but not nearly as thick as, like, say, syrup.
Uh-huh.
So that's about the consistency we're looking for. And then we'll take it. If I had I got a small ladle at home.
Yeah.
That would
Here, I've got a small ladle here.
Oh, do you? Good. That'll do.
Oops, sorry for the noise. Nice.
I can get this shot. Is it? And I'll try to get, like, from the bottom.
Yeah,
and catch it. Now, because of the amount of butter that's in it, it has a little bit of an oily look to it. If that's unappealing to you, you try it again and you use less butter. And, you know, as you are, you know, if you repeat this recipe, you'll tweak it, change it, make it your own. When I first encountered this recipe online, it wasn't Hasselback at all. It was a stuffed chicken breast. But then when Sarah and I were brainstorming for this for this class, we'll move this pan so I can talk. When we're brainstorming for this class, if anybody's ever tried to stuff a chicken breast or pork chop or anything like that, it's tricky getting those toothpicks in there in just the right way to keep it closed, and then you got to flip it and not lose all of your stuffing.
Mhm.
That would be tricky enough to teach in person. I wasn't going to try to do that through a computer screen. So we made the adjustment and turned it into a Hasselback. And so now this is our end result.
And then basil.
Oh yeah. And then our garnish.
And then I can get the salad from the fridge.
Mhm.
Look at how pretty this is.
And we waited to the last minute on the basil. You may even notice
So pretty.
it's even starting to get just a little brown now
Uh-huh.
because basil is just that delicate.
Mm-hmm.
But
And then I can get a bowl for this beautiful
I got you.
thing. And this will be nice having had time to marinate.
mhm.
Oh, you
Grab
guys,
me a
we're getting
spoon.
close.
Just any spoon. That'll do.
We're getting real close.
Yep.
How are you guys doing? You still cooking the chicken? Judy's serving it up. We're serving
Nice.
it up. Tracy and Amanda says, still cooking the chicken, smiley face. All right, you stick with it. As soon as that, feel free to keep temping the chicken, but you want that high simmer. Larissa says at 140. That's great, almost there.
Honestly, the rule for chicken is 165. Honestly, if you're a degree or two shy, or you're getting different temps in different spots, as with me, as you saw, I experienced, you can, if you're pretty confident that the chicken is done or right at the finish line, you can pull it out and it will continue. That carryover will get you all the way there on the plate. I don't want design a plate, but I'm not going to do all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
I'm just doing it. So I'm putting out an additional plate here, just for plating and presentation purposes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's fine.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
I'm gonna start with the rice.
Okay, I'll get a close up on this.
Now, this rice is a little stickier than what I'm accustomed to using. This is rice directly from the co-op, from their bulk section. And yeah, we did have our hands full a little bit. So if I had paid a little closer attention to the rice, I would have gone in and fluffed it, and probably taken the lid off so that it didn't steam and get that stickiness, but still got good taste, still got good flavor. I may have mentioned in the recipe that you can add butter and salt to it. Some people, their rule of thumb, butter and salt on the rice, no matter what you're planning to use it for, but you don't have to. I'm gonna not plate the chicken just yet.
Okay.
And
Beautiful. Look at it. It's gonna be like a rainbow meal.
smaller bowl.
Look at that.
This is also stalling to give everyone a chance to catch up a little too.
So I guess I can repeat some of the steps. So you'll notice that the mozzarella will be melting. That'll be another sign that the chicken is getting closer. We had like kind of like a really strong simmer on the glaze, and keeping the lid on the chicken will really also help
Yes,
kind of steam it.
it's actually essential. Your chicken, your chicken will not cook through before burning if you don't have a lid.
Judy says, bon appetit. Oh, enjoy, Judy. We're so glad that you joined us. And enjoy your meal and take any photos if you want, because we would love to shout out all of our participants that joined us. But look at how beautiful this is.
We can even
Put it on there. Yeah, gorgeous. I think you guys are really gonna be surprised at how moist the chicken
Absolutely.
is.
Let's
How good.
let's have our moment of truth. Where's the
Oh yeah,
utensils?
utensils up there. Let me see if I can get a quick photo,
Yeah.
because it's too pretty not
Well, here,
to.
I'll taste this one. That'll
Okay.
be our model plate. Yeah, and I'm gonna take some pictures of that too.
This looks so good. Look at that.
Okay, and we got everything switched off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
All right.
All right.
So come on and get it. This is the moment of truth.
That looks
Now, this is chicken breast, notorious for being dry
and look
and
at how
flavorless. Can you see how juicy it is done through?
juicy.
It is juicy. That's keeping the lid on. All you got to do is keep the moisture in it, and your chicken breast will not be dry.
Oh,
I'm going to
that's
cut
great.
it down a little bit just for
And make sure you
taking a bite.
kind of
And
dip it in
right.
that.
You can dip it in that. I will say this: our sauce, it did break a little bit. We may have had it simmering a little too high and a little too long. That's because we're working with this super powered cooktop. You guys will probably have better luck with your sauce at home than we did here. Mm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what's up. And I also wanted to point out, because I understand the concern about the bottom of it. Look
Oh
at
yeah,
that
but look
color.
at that.
That is what you're looking for.
It's like
That is
marinated on that layer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, I think if you have any other questions, we're happy to answer any, but we're so glad that you guys joined us for dinner tonight. And
Absolutely.
Pat, thank you so much for
Thank
being.
you. This
It's
was
so nice.
fantastic.
Oh,
Thank you so much
yeah.
to everyone who participated in the class and purchased a meal kit from Common Ground Co-op here in Urbana. Thank you so much to anyone else who's just tuned into the Zoom class just to be able to see if I know what I'm doing. I guess maybe
You do.
I know a little bit what I'm doing. It has been a long road just to get to this point, and I so appreciate just the support from Sarah, and from all of you. Hopefully, some of my friends and family and amongst you. We'll talk later, if you're not. And thanks so much again. My name is Kat Keys, just local Urbana gal that knows how to do some amazing things in the kitchen.
Yeah, and Kat, we're gonna have you back for more. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing these recipes. And I've been really excited. We were brainstorming earlier this year, and so it's so great to be able to eat what we made. And then we're so glad that you were able to join us. And Larissa says your discussions and explanations were great. Marjorie says thanks so much. Rye says thank you, wonderful, learned a lot, and we'll have a delicious meal. Tracy and Amanda says smells delicious, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Matthias says thank you, it's delicious. So I'm so glad you guys
They like me. They really like me.
good, right? I know.
And we had a blast. This is a fun meal to make.
Yeah.
It does have a lot of components to it, but as you can see, there's nothing super complicated here. It is easy. It is adaptable. You can go with green beans if asparagus is not your thing. You can leave them whole. You can have them cut in pieces. You can play around with the stuffing, the caprese
Mhm.
aspect of it. Try some of those different, those multicolored tomatoes, the
Tomatoes?
yellow and
Uh-huh.
orange and those kind of brownish ones, and work with that. You can dress that cucumber tomato salad in nearly anything you want. If it tastes good to you, then it's a good salad. That's the bottom line, folks. So have fun with it and keep cooking.
And Rita says, can't wait for the replay. So yeah, we will share this. We'll post it onto YouTube and then put the Cat's recipes on our website with the video so you can watch it again and again, or share it with friends, who anybody that wants to make it can watch it. And then yeah, thanks, Tony. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, we enjoy your meal.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
we'll see you next time. Unless I'll leave one more minute for any questions, but I'm sure you guys have got it and you're about to eat dinner. So, any last questions before we head out? Feel free to write it in the chat. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. We'll see you
Thanks
we'll see you
again.
later, and
Bye, everybody.
we'll keep you posted on other classes down the line. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.